Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, not good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Karina Kimple. I'm Vice President here at Pontem Software. I'm here with Dwayne Smith, and we are wanting to provide you with information to help your tax calculation process go smoothly. Most of our attendees for this webinar are working at the county level, so we're going to try to make that our primary focus. The process for counties and local units is very similar, but there are a few notable differences, and we'll make sure we step through those. So if most of you have probably joined a webinar before or participated in a webinar before, but just in case you haven't, let me give you a quick rundown of how it works. Most of you should have a little tool that allows you to participate in the webinar. While anybody who is joining us is currently muted, you can, and we do encourage you to submit questions via the webinar tool. We hope to have a little time at the end to do a little question and answer session. Okay, so we have worked to put together some new documentation related to this process, and this was a really great opportunity for us to unveil a new self-service tool that we're providing to our clients, and that is our new Help Center. So let me go ahead and I'll pull that up for you. The address of our Help Center, which of course is referenced in the documents, and I'll make sure that I continue to reference it in emails to follow up to this, is pts.support.pontem.com, where you'll find organized information and documentation for various tax-related items. So here we go, we're doing tax administration, and we're here in Michigan, and we've front and center created a section for calculating tax bills. So this is where all of the documents that we'll be referencing during today's webinar exist. Many of you have been through this tax calculation process quite a number of times. So for you, one of the nice tools that we've provided is just a quick checklist, because a lot of these processes you know how to do. You don't necessarily need to refer to specific instructions. That being said, if you do need any specific instructions, we've got some hyperlinks, and you can actually download this document and have it as a handy reference. When you are calculating your taxes, you're going to have to step through all of these steps pretty much for each one of the local units. So it might be nice to have a checklist so that you can indicate where you're at in the process with each one of your local units. So I have Dwayne Smith here. You all know Dwayne pretty well. Dwayne, do you have any information to add to that?
No, not for the checklist, no.
Okay, all right, so you'll notice as we go through this process, we're going to skip over a few things. We'll just give them a general description, but then Dwayne will be demonstrating other items. There are 20 some odd steps to this process, and there are 4 different sections, and I know that this is a pretty small image. I don't expect you to be reading it, but basically we have a section for preparation, a section for calculation, a section for doing last-minute updates, and then a section for the steps required for distributing the tax bills. So we're going to go through that process list right now, and I will go ahead and bring up the main document. So that checklist I was showing you there is a complementing tool for this main document, and we'll go ahead and we'll just jump right in. So the first thing you'll need to do is get into your system and make sure that you have it configured with the proper general information for each of your tax units. So if you've got new treasurers in the local units or any change in who's there, you'll want to make sure that that information is correct, because the next process will fetch information from that source. Next, you're going to create the new tax period, which will create all the tax unit control records for each of your units. And this is where I'll go ahead and hand things over to Dwayne, and he can go ahead and walk us through that process.
Okay, the basic process here is done on the tax roll setup menu. And right now it displays summer 16. That was the last tax period that I've been working with. We go to the Tools tab, and right here this first item is Create Clone Tax Period. So we click on that, and we're going to do a winter tax period. The tax year is 2016, so that's correct. We always want to clone from the prior year. It is possible to clone from an older year than that. I would recommend you have a very good reason to do that, because usually the prior year is the one that's most up to date with the levies information that you need. And then we just click on the clone option, and that goes through to create the records that we need. Now, we're not going to see them in the list just yet, because we want to go through and change our default tax period. This is something that it's going to have to be changed for each individual user. While you're in the process of calculating taxes, it is best that you are have the current tax period referenced as your default. Other people on the network in the county are going to be giving historical information, and so they can default to summer 16 and continue that. But we definitely don't want them to give out winter 16 information yet. So now you'll see I've changed my default tax period, so now we've got the list of tax unit control records here.
So that process, essentially, Dwayne, what you're saying is it just makes it easy. You won't have to fill in your quick search every time, because you've set the default, so that way you don't accidentally get the wrong records.
That is correct.
Okay. After we change the default tax period, we're already 4 steps through the process. This 4th step is confirming the information is correct for each tax unit control record.
Right, and for that you'll need to look at each individual tax unit control record. You can just double click on the one that you need to review. All this information is pulled either from the 2015 record that we cloned from, or the treasurer's name and address is actually pulled out of system preferences. Now I know because of timing sometimes you're not going to know who the new treasurer is for winter taxes, because, well, the election doesn't happen until next week. So in this situation you could just come here and change it as well. Mind you, you'll still need to go into system preferences and change it there, but just because you've got last year's treasurer's name isn't a dead stop for you. You can go ahead and update it here. Now the system recognizes certain dates within the record, so you'll see the penalty and interest date here were automatically incremented to 2017 from the 2016 that was in the 2015 record. So anytime the system can specifically recognize a date, it will go ahead and update it or increment it by 1 year. The exception to that is in something like this fiscal year message that goes on the tax bill, is that the computer doesn't recognize this as a date, so you would need to go in specifically to edit that date. And some of these other tabs have dates on them as well. There's also the possibility of changing the hours for the local treasurer, that type thing. And what we'll need to do is validate that information with the township treasurer once we've got everything initialized and we think we're correct, you can easily print out, here at the top we've got a print button, and this prints out what we call the tax unit worksheet. And this has all the information that's in this record. So it's got the headings, all the messages that go in here, and you can send this to the local treasurer to say, this is what's going on your tax bill. Let me know if there's any changes.
All right, so Dwayne, speaking to that, I just sent you a quick link. So sometimes people wonder, okay, where does this stuff that I'm putting into the system end up on the tax bill? So if you were to pull that up, Dwayne, and scroll down, that would allow, everybody to see that we've tried our very best to make sure that we've got some descriptive imagery in here for you just to make it easy and to give you good reference. Okay, so after we worked on the process of editing the information on these tax unit control records, and you've noticed that some of the tabs that are here, Dwayne's not gone into. Some of them, for example, the GL account is not necessarily relevant to the calculation process. It's great information if you want to transfer your tax data into another accounting system, etc., but it's not a showstopper for the calculation process. Okay, so the next step, Dwayne, if I'm not mistaken, is to import the PREs, right?
Yes, I believe that is.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, that process, I know you guys have gone through it quite a bit already. It's the load parcel values, and we go up to File, Import, and Load Parcel Values. It is going to ask you to make a backup of the database. That takes time, and it's not necessarily a requirement of the county, but it never hurts. I'll do no here. And actually, I've already got an import in progress, so I'm going to remove that. Now, you'll need to select the type of data you're getting. In most cases, it's going to be BS&A current. This information is coming from your township assessor because they have, in theory, the latest principal residence exemption information. And you'll need to tell it which township you're actually importing at that time. Now, you do have the option, you can save the files from the township to a specific directory on the hard drive on your network, or you can save it to your desktop. If you save it onto the network, it's a lot easier for other users to actually access that and help out with the process as well, if that's an option. Once you've browsed to the location where that file is, your files to process, what we're looking for is a values file. Now, one difference or one problem that we have is that from the township, the assessor always produces the same exact file name. So no matter what township you get it from, it's going to be values.txt. So I've always recommended to people to change that .txt to be the unit number extension. So for this one, you'll see I've changed it to values.009. And we just check that to make sure we're using that file and go next. Now this screen allows us to pick and choose specifically what we want to import from that file. And we want to import only, or for existing parcels. We'll need to update the value record because that is actually where the principal residence exemption is stored. The change values and preserve certified. This will basically add another value history record for the parcel and maintain what the status as of March Border Review. So we're not going to lose our March Border Review number. Down here at the bottom of the screen, we want to bring in just the exemption type, and we want to use the import file to tell us exactly what that type is. We will not be bringing in any of this information here in the middle. So what you see on the screen right now is exactly what you need to bring in for just the PREs. Once we've got that set up, then we can click on the Files button. And the program is going to show us which file it's going to use for those values. Now here at the bottom of the list, you'll see it says file is the 2017. The assessors are always working on next year's database, so the information we get from them is always coming out of their 2017 database, or next year's database. But there is a prior year exemption in that file, so we're getting the prior PRE from next year's database. Now once we've got that, we can click on the validate button, and it's going to go through and import that file. And this is good. We don't want to see any errors here. If there are errors, you can manually fix them in the next step, but with just bringing in PREs, it's very rare that there's going to be an issue there. So we can click on process. At this point, there isn't really any kind of a verification we can do of the data from the local assessor, so it's best just to go down here to apply all in list. And when we do that, it's going to come up with a prompt to say basically you're not reviewing each individual change, so it just wants to verify that yes, you want to do it this way, and so you have to click on continue. The program will apply those changes to the parcels, adding that new value history record, and no errors during that process, so we click OK. And it comes up with this message to just say, you know, it's just kind of a reminder that we have official 2016 values in place. It's not that we're updating the official numbers. Those are March Board of Review. Those are safe. And we click OK, and we're back into the program. So that pretty well takes care of importing the principal residence changes. Now you'll need to do that for each township before you calculate those bills for that township.
Thanks, Dwayne. So the next step in the process is everybody's favorite, editing the calculated levy definitions. We are trying to make a distinction between the calculated levies and the special assessments. We want to, typically it is easiest for the validation process to edit the calculated levies, create the tax bills, and then verify, and then start working on verifying the specials. Most of you are familiar with that process, so we're going to have to go ahead and have Dwayne walk us through editing those levy definitions. Before he starts, I'm going to quick steal the screen here. And I'm going to pull up a document. You know, we get questions about, let's see if I can go to calculating tax bills and find the document I want to show you. As we're adding and editing levy definitions, we want to make sure that we're striking a balance between and you understand where to go to get any help that you might need. So obviously all of you know that Dwayne knows taxes inside and out, and he does his very best to give advice, but really his area of expertise is the how does the software function, and so that's really what we're here for, is helping you with the software issues. But we want to point out that we've provided in this document as well a number of helpful resources for tax knowledge and the tax information that you'll need in order to understand how it is to fill out those levies. So without further ado, I'm going to pass this back to you, Dwayne, so you can go ahead and walk us through a sample of that.
Okay. Now, to edit the levies, we are here on still on the tax roll setup workspace, and basically you're going to come in here now. Each unit is going to have a set of levies that are applicable to that unit. There are some levies that are applicable to multiple units. On those, you only need to edit the levy once for, you know, let's say we've got a levy that's specific for units 1, 2, and 3. If you edit that levy and make a change for unit 1, it's automatically carried over to 2 and 3. There's only one definition for that levy, so if you make the change once, it covers everybody.
Great.
Now, to get in there and make those changes, basically you highlight the unit you want to work with and do tax levy definitions link here in the view. This list is going to show you all of the levies that are valid for this township. If we were to go to another township, we would get some of the same levies, but there would be variations in things like the township operating tax, because that's applicable only to this unit or one unit at a time. And that's probably a good one to take a look at here to start with. Usually, what we're looking at is a change to a millage rate. That's one of the most used reasons to get in on these levies to make a change. And all you need to do is just highlight it in the list and click Edit, and that takes you straight to the General tab. And all we need to do then is just make the change to the millage rate. So maybe they went through and got a millage renewal, so now it's back at a one mil full. Now, one other thing here is that the information that displays in this particular chunk of the screen is going to vary depending on the calculation method used. If we take a look at some of the different ones, we've got a flat rate levy, and this would be expecting a district multiplier or a district code to use for the multiplier and a flat rate value. School operating, again, that's a millage rate. Supplemental also. Commercial Forest Act is a per acre fee, so it needs that fee there. Again, millage rate against equalized value as opposed to taxable. I don't think that's used anywhere anymore. And special assessments. So it depends on the type of calculation method as to what additional information is going to display here. In addition to that, here on the right, we've got subject to, and these just determine some of the things that are in the background that apply to this levy as well. So interest and penalty, that's a collection item that if the payment is late, this is one of the levies that's going to be used to calculate the interest and penalty. The admin fee, some units do not have admin fee, or individual parcels can be exempt from admin fee, or in most cases, special assessments are exempt from admin fee. So this is how we would exempt a special assessment from the administration fee, is just to check that or uncheck that box. IFTs, most people have an IFT someplace in the county. The state education tax requires a full 6 mils as opposed to a half levy. So that's about the only place you're going to see this IFT full rate checked. And below that, if you've got a TIFA district somewhere in the county that captures some of the taxes collected, we need to know specifically which levies are subject to that capture. And because some levies are and some levies aren't, all depending on the charter of that district. And that's TIFA districts, DDAs, LDFAs, all those pretty little acronyms. Renaissance zone exemptions exempt a parcel from all or part of the tax levy, and this is on an individual levy. Some levies are subject to Renaissance zones, some are not. So you need to know which ones to check that box for. If you check that box, the levy for most of the years of that exemption on a parcel is going to be 0. It's only in the last 3 years when that exemption starts to expire when the levy will start being applied to that parcel. Now once we've got that, we just click Save, and we will get a message about the change to the levy definition. It's going to vary a little bit. At this point, it's going to come up and say the change we just made is only applicable to new tax bills. Once we have tax bills out there, that may ask you if you want to recalculate the taxes. Restrictions are the piece of information that determines exactly which parcels are going to get this particular levy. So this one has quite a long list of items here, but it's definitely being applied against some specific tax units. And also this one is specific for DNR. So this is a replacement levy for the summer DNR tax bill. So it gets included on the winter bill. To make a change, you'd come down here and select a specific category. and then we can click the edit button, and let's say that this no longer applies to Cummings Township. We can just remove that from the list, and now none of the DNR parcels in Cummings Township will get this particular levy. Now, that was, for most counties, that would have been a stupid mistake, but because it's already set up and ready to go, so I'm going to cancel out of that, so I'm just going to leave it the way it was before. This also has the general ledger accounts item on it. That is an accounting function and doesn't pertain really to the calculation process, but that's the editing process right there. If you do have a new levy to add, it's fairly straightforward to add the levy initially. You just click on the General tab and then New, and you can put the tax code and description out here. There's more information in the documentation with recommendations on this, so I'm not going to get too far into it. But the important thing on a new levy is to make sure you get the restrictions correct. Because if you leave the restrictions blank, every parcel in the county is going to get that levy. So.
That's good. That's a good warning for us, Dwayne. Thank you. Okay, so now that we've completed all of the preparation steps, the next step is to actually create those tax bills and do that initial creation of those. So if you don't mind, Dwayne, we'll get that going, and then while it's calculating, we'll talk about verification.
Okay. Now we're going to move to the prepare tax bills. This is where, now that we've got the definitions and everything for the bills ready to go, we can start preparing those bills. From here, we'll go to the Tools tab, and we've got this Create Update Tax Bills, and that launches this tool here. The checkbox up here at the top for update names and addresses, that's something that actually happens in the update phase of the calculation process, so we would leave that unchecked at this point. The tax period comes up, and while you do have the ability to do all units, we don't recommend it. There is a time function on this calculation process, so if you do all units, it's going to try and calculate the entire county, and that's going to take a bit of time. So you may not be around when the process finishes, and there's a time limit at that point that if you don't approve it quick enough, you're going to have to do it all over again. So definitely, just for that issue alone, it's much better to work on an individual township basis. And that makes the validation process a bit easier to deal with as well. So once you've selected your unit, click on the next. And you'd leave the parcel number range blank simply because you want to do the entire township. For winter taxes, you'll definitely want to select all roll types. This is one of the pitfalls that I run into on a halfway regular basis, that because the default is ad valorem only, somebody will go through and calculate taxes and then discover 2 minutes before they're about to print tax bills, or unfortunately sometimes after bills go out, that they hadn't calculated IFTs. So select the all roll types for winter taxes. The exception to that is summer taxes, which is everything except DNR. Okay, here on the right we've got calculate taxes or tax levies using, and we recommend you use the current value. That's going to pick up any border review changes from the summer, so that your winter bills calculate from the adjusted amounts. I know some counties prefer to use a certified value, and that is possible. In that situation, if you use certified values to calculate your bills, either the township would have to make the changes that were applied in July border review, or you would have to make them individually before bills went out. So there's some additional work to using the certified value. One thing also on using certified value, it doesn't matter which of these options you select, it always uses the current principal residence exemption. If you say use certified, it's not going to go back to what it was at March border review. It's still going to use the one we just imported a few minutes ago. So now that we've got that, we can click on the Finish button, and this is going to begin the calculation process. And that does, vary depending on the speed of the machine, the number of parcels, and everything. But we'll take a look at the validation at this point. And for validation, we want to use two reports in most cases, which is the district statistics report and the original tax roll balancing report. And there's a couple of things we're looking for here. We want to do these specifically by roll type because if you mix IFTs and ad valorem together, that kind of confuses the numbers you're looking at a bit. So you'd print a district statistics for ad valorem and an original balancing report for ad valorem and then compare numbers. Now, one of the things we look at here is the taxable value. We want to make sure we're getting the correct taxable value for the levy that we've calculated. Now, this is a qualified forest fee. It's kind of an off-the-wall, so there's only a few parcels that actually get this. And you can come over here to the district statistics and take a look at this. And those parcels are going to be the qualified forest exemption type. And we just have to come over here and look at the taxable value for that. And those two numbers should match up. So these ones do, so it looks like we're all set on that. Another one is, this is personal commercial school operating. So personal commercial is exempt from 12 mils of the school operating levy. So those are calculated separately under a different, a specific levy for them. And so we would just compare this actually to the principal residence exempt amount of the 251 class. Or it's possible there could be two classes you might have to add together depending on if the assessor's using one or multiple classes to identify those personal commercials. But that's the type of thing we want to take a look at to make sure that we've got the right taxable value on these calculations. Now, the other piece of this is the excessive roll amount on this report. There's a couple of rules that you can use on this. That one, the number is always going to be negative, or 0 or negative. The other thing is that you can take a look at the parcel count and figure that the most the excessive roll should be is a penny per parcel. So if the excessive roll violates either of those two rules, you definitely want to take a look at that levy. Either the definition to the levy, the millage rate might be wrong, the include-exclude parcels might be wrong, something like that. But definitely that would give you cause to review that levy calculation. So, okay, my calculations are complete. So at the end of that process, it comes up with this summary. Now at this point I had mentioned the timeout earlier, so you could review the levies here to check those excessive roll numbers and the taxable value numbers, but that takes a bit of time and you might run out of that time limit we've got on there. So we recommend you just click on the commit changes, and that's actually going to apply those tax bill changes or calculations, and now we've got parcels out here to take a look at that have actually had the calculations completed. So that's the calculation process, and then we get into validating the calculated levies.
Right, right. So that we kind of skipped around there because we were waiting for that calculation to happen. Should you have any, you find any levies that aren't calculating properly, this is just an iterative process. It's like washing your hair, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. So you just go ahead and validate, go make your adjustment to the levy. When you make your adjustment to the levy, Dwayne, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it prompt you to go ahead and recalculate?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
But you do have to watch out for those levies that span or valid for multiple units. Those sometimes, you know, like I say, you just got to watch out for those calculations.
Right. So calculate, verify, calculate, verify. The next step would be to import the special assessment levies.
Right. And that also is done here on Prepare Tax Bills. And again, to the Tools tab, and we've got this first option here, which is Import Special Levies. Clicking on that will launch the import tool. So you're going to be getting special assessments from multiple different locations. You may have data, specials you've got to enter in for each individual township for various items that they may have. A lot of times they'll have delinquent water or delinquent sewer or something like that that they need to put on the tax bill. recommendation is to get that information from them in a spreadsheet or in a digital format, because it's a lot easier to import that than to manually type it in every time. So we've got this import tool here. We can handle several different formats. So comma separated values, the two you'll get most often are probably the Excel spreadsheet and the fixed length. Now I've got a file here from the drain office that is actually a fixed length file. So I'll set that up and we just select that from the list. You may have to navigate to where you've got the file saved if it's on your desktop or wherever. But once you've got that file checked, just click on the next button and it actually begins the import process. It's going to go through and validate to make sure that we've got valid parcels, that we don't have multiple levies on the same parcel and that type thing. And then it will come up with, when it's finished with that process, it'll come up with a listing on the screen. There we are. So this is going to show us pretty much all the levies that were part of that file. In most cases, you're just going to see the special record added. If we check this box for warnings and errors only, we can see the ones that the computer wanted to bring to our attention or the ones that just flat had an error. If we had a duplicate, it would show up in this list. These are just telling us that the parcel has 0 taxable value, but we're trying to assign a special assessment to it. Maybe just, the child parcel of a split or the parent of a split that hasn't followed through. So you need to take a look at those. It's not out of the ordinary to have a special assessment on a 0 value parcel. Like if this first one here actually is an exempt parcel, that's not out of the ordinary. So it is possible to have a special on an exempt parcel. Now, one thing you'll want to do too is check those numbers. This file is from the drain office, so it's not just a single assessment in this file. And that means basically that we've got several totals that we'll probably have to check against. Each drain is going to list the parcels involved and the total dollar amount for that particular assessment. And then, so now it advances on to the next. And you'll still see these same messages out here that we saw on the previous screen. So if you do run into things, this is a good one to print out to make sure we can get the problems fixed that might be there. Now at the very end of the report, we are going to have, this last total is for this X00601 drain, but a grand total for the file itself. So this would be all the drains added together. You should have totals from the drain office that will reflect what we see on this report. If it doesn't balance, then you need to go back to the drain office or figure out what's going on and manually fix it. At this point, everything's fine with this, so we can just click Finish, and that will apply those special assessments to each of the individual tax bills. That's kind of the commit point. If we'd have canceled out of there, it would have thrown out everything. The Finish actually completes it and applies it to the individual tax bills.
Cool. Thanks, Dwayne. So after those specials are imported, then of course you need to again verify, and Dwayne shared that convenient report as a way to begin that verification process. We've documented that step by step, as well as given you some other helpful reports that will allow you to more easily verify your totals. We are coming up on only 20 minutes to go, so we want to make sure we keep moving along here. So with that in mind, Dwayne, we're going to finish the last step of section 2, which is just quick show us, where do we go if we need to manually add a special assessment?
Okay, there are two ways to do it. One would be to find the specific tax bill you want to edit and click on the Edit Bill. That's fine if you've just got one parcel you need to work with. In many cases, you've got a list of parcels, and for that, again, it's still here on the Tools tab for Prepare Tax Bills. We've got Add, Edit, Special Levies. So it's a matter of finding the special assessment that you want to make the application to. And then here we can just type in a specific parcel number, or we can work from the list down below. Type in the dollar amount and just hit enter. And oh well, I'm trying to apply a special assessment to a parcel that doesn't allow it for this particular unit. So that's what happened there. So it does check the levy definition to make sure that we're not applying this special assessment to a unit that doesn't get it. So again, that's something you'd have to go back in and take a look at. Okay, but that's the manual application process right there.
Yeah, and that's detailed in the documentation as well with specific screenshots. It will teach you how to do the filters so that you can apply the proper levy and also make changes to that parcel list down below. So that should make things much more convenient for you and give you a handy reference, and that might just save you from needing to make a phone call and having to wait, or having to find a time to be in the office to do that. You can just refer to those documents. So the next section is, we should be able to get through this part pretty quickly, is just simply the updates. Updates are always happening, and inevitably, especially because this calculation process could span quite a number of days as you walk through it. Updates will have happened during that time, so we have the next step would be to update tax bills with any post-calculation PRE changes.
Right, and that process again is done here in the prepare tax bills. Locate the parcel you need to make the change to and just click on the edit tax bill button. That's going to give you a warning to basically say the changes you're making are going to change the original numbers on the tax bill. So a change here would make a change to the tax roll warrant. So you do have to watch out for that. And usually, yes, we want to continue. The billing cycle shows pre-levy. And we get PRE changes in constantly, so it's not unheard of to get one in after November 1st. But we just come in here and type in the new percentage. The program does require an exemption type, so you can pick one from the list, or you can see I just started typing and it took me right to the X home. You'll see here in the bottom right that this is actually reducing the tax bill by $623. And we can click on detail, and now we can scan down through here. Oh, it's actually the first one. Take a look at the specific levy, the original amount, what the change we just made triggered. And then if we click finish, again, that's the commit point. It's actually going to apply that change to the bill. One of the other items that comes in all the time is name changes. So we want to make sure that the name that the tax bill is mailed to continues to be associated with the tax bill. So if we make a name change after we've done calculations, we need to link that new name with the tax bill we've already got, because at the time of calculation, that's when that link happens. To make that correction, it's back to the Tools tab in Prepare Tax Bills, and it's actually Create Update Tax Bills. Now we're back to this checkbox here. This is the checkbox that relinks the new information with the existing tax bill. And so it's just a matter of checking the box, tax period, selecting the specific unit, and clicking Finish. And it's not going to recalculate any taxes, it's just going to relink the new name with that tax bill.
Okay, so two more items that we'll need to make sure that we update on these tax bills before we're ready to print is assigning the tax bill numbers, and the one thing that we'll need to demonstrate quickly here is importing tax bill flags so that the messages for the previous delinquencies are notified on those bills. If you don't mind, Dwayne.
Yep. Now this is one place where the process changes between the county and the township, and that's Manage Tax Bill Flags. When we come in here, for the county, we'd want to leave this blank. We want to do the winter 16, We would not do the tax year because we don't want to touch the summer tax bills. And we just click the next button. Now at this point, the program is going out to look directly into the delinquent tax database and get the information for those delinquencies that are still balance due. And it brings those up on the screen here for what the current amount is. It doesn't really matter too much. It's got a balance due on it. Currently the flag is no, and we want to change that to a yes. But all we've got to do at this point is click update, and it's going to go through and apply that flag to all the parcels that were still delinquent.
Dwayne, can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Just in case we share this with any of our local units, if you go back one button there.
Sure. Yep.
So with our, and click next now.
Yeah, as I said, I went 2. That's good.
Okay, yeah, so at 2. So for our local units, instead, they would just be, the only difference is they'd be clicking the load from file and browsing to the file that they've been provided, correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for answering that question. Go ahead and...
No problem. I'll have to do that update again. Okay, so now at this point we just click finish and it actually applies those flags, and when we print the tax bills we'll see a message out there related specifically to that delinquency. The other item is assigning new tax bill numbers to the parcels. The tax bill number itself is a non-critical number. It's not something the system uses for anything. But it's out there as a convenience and a reference back to the old days when everything balanced together on that tax roll number. That's how you got to the parcel, is by the tax bill number rather than the parcel number. So this allows us to renumber a township, or I believe you can leave the unit number blank and it'll do the entire county. When it does that, it will start each unit with tax bill number 1. So everybody starts with number 1.
Cool. Okay, so that takes us into the final part. We've done all of our calculating, we've done our updating, and now we're to the distribution area. And Dwayne, I know that the process can be a little bit different for counties as opposed to local units, so we can just make sure that we make those distinctions for the benefit of any locals that it might also be listening in.
Right. Okay, the actual print process. Now most of you, I believe, have custom tax bills, so you would go to the custom menu to navigate to your specific tax bill. I'll use the standard form here. Okay, and we've got the original reprint. This one always prints the original numbers on the tax bill, so if there's been a border review change after the tax roll date, this still prints the original number that would have gone on the warrant. Okay, on the filter screen, I'm actually going to do this by parcel number rather than the way you'd normally do it. Normally, you would probably come through here and do it for a specific unit to print bills just for that unit, because normally those bills go to the township and they mail them. Sometimes they go to a print service and the print service mails them, but it's usually done on a township by township basis. The only other thing you've really got to think about is on the order by tab. If you send it to, especially if you send it to a print service, you do get a bulk mailing rate if everything is in the correct order.
Oh, zip code, right?
Yeah, zip code. I grabbed the wrong one. So you'd put it in zip code order, and that's going to get you a bulk mailing rate when these get sent out. But like I say, that only works, I believe, through a print service. I don't think it's, if you print your own bills, it's not really going to work that way. Now the other thing here to think about is this print directly to printer. Actually before that, once you get your calculations done and you're ready to print, just print a couple of sample tax bills. You may want to actually distribute them to the township and say, this is an official tax bill. If you see a problem problem with it, let me know, because otherwise this is the way it's going out. So that gives them a last chance to review the messages and the addresses and the dates and everything else that's going on that bill. I do have some counties that force the township treasurer to sign that bill and send it back, just for, to make sure, point of blame. So yeah, you take that into account. So you want to print a couple of them from each township to distribute that way and get verification, and just pass them around the office too. See if somebody else in the office recognizes a typo or something like that. I know I'm prominent for typos. The other thing is, when you go through to print them officially, to make the official print, we've got this option here for print directly to printer. What's going to happen there, if you do it through the normal process, it's going to try and display it on the screen first, and then you'd click print to send it to the printer. That takes double the amount of time, because it's got the program has to format it for the screen and then format it for the printer. But it also takes memory on the computer, so if it's really too big of a print job, you'll run out of memory before you actually print the bills. So your official print process, when you're doing your official bills, print directly to printer. And that's just going to come up with a regular printer dialog, and I'll show you that in a minute, but I'm going to go through the screen preview first. Okay, so this is the tax bill, and again, this is the off-the-shelf tax bill, not your custom tax bill. But you can see the messages, the legal descriptions, the individual levies. I believe one of these has a delinquency against it, or not.
Maybe.
There it is. I knew there was one out here. So this is where the message shows up. Now it may show up in a different location on your custom tax bill. Now when you do that printing, when you go direct to the printer, the program's going to come up straight to this dialog. If you're going to send it to the printer, just select your printer from the list and start feeding it paper. If you want to send things to a print service, you do this print to file and select the PDF format, and then clicking on this button will allow you to send that to a specific spot. And I'm just going to put it on my desktop so it can be easily mailed from there, and click OK, and it's going to print those tax bills, and that's it. You're done. Mind you, if you're still feeding paper to the printer, you're not quite done yet. But
right. So the printing the tax advice, if you do that, is the next step, and that is essentially similar to the printing the tax bills. The next big item would be then exporting those tax rolls to send off to your local units, the mortgage companies, whoever needs to receive that information in an electronic format. So Dwayne, can you walk us through that real quick?
Yep. Okay, for that process, it's on File and Export, and the very first item here is Export Tax Rolls. Now, at this point, you're going to need to know a little bit of information about where the data is going to, because you've got some townships that are using our Pontem tax receipting and some that are using other applications for their collection, so you need to know which ones are which. For those that are using Pontem, you're going to be using the Pontem format, otherwise probably the standard ASCII format. If you do have to send to two different targets, you'll need to run you'll need to run this export twice, once for each batch of townships. But you can do the entire batch all at once. So basically, if you have three townships that are using a particular format, you can do all three of them at the same time. And you can do that either by highlighting and clicking include, or just I was double clicking on that particular unit. Removing them from the list is the same process. Here at the bottom, we've got the compressed file or zip format. We strongly recommend using that zip format. It makes that file a lot smaller for email to send out to the townships if you're getting data to them that way. And it doesn't really matter if if it's a zip file on a CD or a thumb drive. Everything just goes a little bit quicker when it's zipped up. Now the location, this is where that file is going to end up when the process is finished, and just clicking next will begin that export process. This shouldn't take too long. There aren't very many tax bills. Um, but when the process is done, it's going to display on the screen kind of a summary of what it just did. So if you did multiple units, it's going to list each of those units with the name of the file that was assigned to that unit. And it's going to give you the option to open up Windows Explorer and go to that file location. So, you know, that makes it easy to click on that file if you want to burn it to a CD or something like that. Okay, so this is the file that was created in the location. Now we do have a standard naming convention, which is just the tax period, a dash, and then a U, and then the unit number .zip. So that's the name that you'll see in those compressed files. You can print this list, and like I say, this go-to files is going to launch the Windows Explorer, which just came up on my other screen, to the location where that file was saved. And so from here you can do whatever you need to do for Windows to burn it to a CD or copy it to a thumb drive, or whatever your process is.
Or email it off, right? Well, that makes that
Yes.
pretty easy. So after this, really the only two steps that are left in the process is printing receipts, if that's something that your county does, printing pre-printed receipts for distribution to local units, and also printing tax rolls and alpha lists. Dwayne, is that something that is done there at the counties?
Usually it is, yes. Sometimes it is passed off to the townships, depending on how the rules of the county. One thing to remember about the tax roll is that is another big print job. So you would definitely want to use the print directly to printer option when you're printing that out.
Right. So because we are just about finished with our time here, I will mention that the printing instructions, specific printing instructions for tax rolls and the alpha lists are cataloged in that new help center. So don't hesitate if you have any questions about which report to select or how to complete those filters to reference that. Now we are just about at our hour-long time, so those of you who need to skedaddle, we understand that. We can open up for a few minutes yet to take questions and answers. So if we did a good job, maybe there's not going to be a ton of questions, or maybe because you folks are experienced at some of this already, but we'll go ahead and unmute everybody now. I also have a question that has been submitted using the tool as well, but before we get to that, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask at this time? If not, then I'll go ahead and here's a question, Dwayne, that we got. I have units who calculate taxes. How do I get the locals that file?
Oh, the delinquent file listing for those that are still unpaid. That's actually done out of the delinquent tax system. Let me start that up real quick. There is an export out of delinquent tax that creates the required file. As soon as I get that open. Okay, all you need to do is start up your delinquent tax program and come up here to File and Export, and the very last item here is Export Unpaid Delinquent List, and this will look familiar. It's the same basic layout as the export tax rolls, and you'll use the standard ASCII format, and you want to select the delinquent year, so that's going to be 2015, and then just for each unit you want to do, just select that unit and click the Next button. It's going to go through the same process. It's going to compress that file, and it's going to take you here, show you the name of that file. So it's Unpaid Delinquent Bills 2015 for Unit 001. And again, you can click on the Go To Files to navigate directly to where that file is on your on the network or on your hard drive or desktop, wherever it went.
All right, cool. Does anybody else have any questions before we go ahead and conclude our time together? Dwayne, I think you must have done a good job. So if anybody does have any questions that come up during the process, if you've referred to these instructions, and of course we'll be distributing a recording of this demonstration for your future reference as well, but if those things don't get you through, then please feel free to give us a call and we will go ahead and do our very best to help make your calculation process as smooth as possible. Thank you everybody for your time, and thank you, Dwayne.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Have a good afternoon.